I clicked it. What is going on? Welcome to Match Memories. We are live. We are going to talk about Hell in a Cell 1998. I got my friend Wildboy here and Throwback. I'm hosting the show.
God. This is
not Throwback. I have taken over. It's very I'm the anonymous GM type thing. I'm just taking over, but you know who I am, so it's not really anonymous, I guess. But anyways, I want to say thank you for tuning in. If you're live with us, or maybe if you're watching it later, that's cool too. But we're going to talk about one of the most infamous matches in WWF history, especially in the 90s, Hell in a Cell. And we're doing this show for a particular reason, and it means a lot to Throwback. And during the show, he'll tell you why this show means so much to him. But I'm going to start things off by asking Wildboy, what about this match do you remember? And what did you like about it? And go from there.
All right, so the most memorable part is Mick's tooth in his nose. I mean, that the camera shot of him turning his head, bleeding, and his tooth is in his nose. Like, I was in 5th grade when that happened. I'm 33, and I still remember that visual. Like, God, Mick Foley is a beast to be thrown off the cell through a table, through the cell, and then choke slammed on thumbtacks and a tombstone. The dude is indestructible, and God bless that man. And I think it's the best Hell in a Cell I think we've ever seen.
Yeah, it's up there. It's definitely. I know what's so cool about that Hell in a Cell is, I mean, for the most part, we had back-to-back unbelievable Hell in a Cell matches. Because if you go back to 1997, you had the bad blood between Undertaker and Shawn Michaels. That's a lot of people have that ring tire. I don't. I have the Hell in a Cell 98, and then I have Hell in a Cell between Shawn Michaels and the Undertaker from 1997. But this match is unbelievable. And Throwback, I'm gonna go to you here in a few minutes about what this means to you, because you're gonna be a little bit longer on it. But I'm just gonna do a quick introduction about the match. That way, people who maybe you haven't seen the match, I definitely strongly will recommend you checking it out if you have not. It's honestly one of the most important WWF matches in the 90s, I think. I think it actually WWF was already winning the ratings war against Nitro at that time, but it kind of even put it more, it put it higher after that match. I mean, there's people that I know people that didn't even watch wrestling, and I showed it to them, and they were just like, wow, that was unbelievable. So it's a very important match in regards to WWE history in the 90s. But what it was is The Undertaker versus Mankind. It was at Hell in a Cell, King of the Ring, 1998. It took place on June 28th, live from the Civic Arena in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. The Civic Arena was basically it's the home where the Pittsburgh Penguins played. They've had numerous films filmed there, including the Best Picture Sudden Death with Jean-Claude Van Damme. It didn't actually win Best Picture, but I just wanted to add that in there. It's actually a guilty pleasure film for me. I love it. Anytime it's on, I'll watch it no matter what. But just to give you a little rundown, that's where King of the Ring 98 was. One of the other, in a way, that match kind of took away from the other stuff on that pay-per-view. A lot of people don't know or remember or know this, but Stone Cold lost the heavyweight title that night to Kane. And the King of the Ring winner was Ken Shamrock. And if you think back about it, not many people talk about Ken Shamrock ever winning the King of the Ring. He actually beat The Rock. So that's how big this match was as far as talked about. Nobody thinks about the other matches, and that's unfortunate, but it's the way it is. So
Kane even said to this day he's pissed off at Foley because of the fact that he was supposed to win the championship. And if you remember at the end of the pay-per-view during that match, all of a sudden there they are still going at the end of the championship match for Kane and then Stone Cold. But, Kane lost it the next day to Stone Cold because of Taker's interference.
Well, now I'm going to go ahead and ask you, Throwback. What about King of the Ring 98? What does it mean to you?
I thought this was going to be easier than I thought. At that point in my life, a lot of things have changed. A lot of bad things happened. We had a boiler fire at that one point at my mom's house, and we were kind of technically homeless at around that time frame. Like towards the beginning of 98 and from 97. What actually is that, you're using texting. But what's happening at that point in my life, I got jumped from being jumped. So I have a scar going across my head. And because my uncle and my aunt brought us in, we were able to watch this pay-per-view. Now, at this point in my life, I was in high school. I was a sophomore going into my junior year the following year at the technical high school. And to me, that whole match represented my life at that point. It still represents certain aspects of my life at this point. The struggle, getting up when you feel defeated, trying to keep going. Like DK said, the image of Mick with the tooth is just a reminder of me, how I crawled after I got jumped in the middle of the park near my mom's house and literally was left there for no reason. And I got up. My mom took me to her friend who was a nurse and cleaned me up. The scar is from where they took a trash can and cracked my skull a little bit. That match perseveres everything that I was going through at that point. Where their feud was, it was just a representation to me about my life as a teenager at that point, looking back now. But with everything gone on in the last year and a half, well, it's 2 years today for her birthday, it represents that fight she went through. And it's more in depth on a little bits and pieces, like the tombstone that Foley took, him going through the whole the top of the cage, not once but twice, getting thrown off the top of the cage. I mean, the guy kept going, and Terry Funk came in and literally looked at Taker and told him to stop, and Funk got taken out and stuff. It represents a lot in me, and it's a representation of life. Like when and this is how old I am. This is dial-up era, by the way. They had something where Foley would be answering in the wrestling, sections, like what Reddit is now, would be answering questions or sending questions and stuff. And he'd be like, he'll answer them. And I send it to him. I'm like, because of what you did in that match made me go on for another 5 years of my life to be more stronger than I was. And at that point, I never thought I'd be living at my mom's house again after that. I never thought that I'd be going to college in that house. I never thought of any of this stuff. And then at not being in that house for a specific amount of time, also on top of that, I almost broke my wrist at the same time that week. And, it just represents everything I've gone through in my life, whether I've been beaten down, beaten up emotionally, told that I'm not worth it, told that I'm a piece of shit, told that I'm too big for my size, too fat, too this, too tall, too smart, too shallow, to all of these things in my life, and having my uncle, who's an amazing man, pay. If you remember, Rob, pay-per-view back then was $50. It wasn't cheap. Allowing me to sit in their living room and enjoy a pay-per-view of King of Ring 1998 and just be me in that moment. It's really difficult when I have been beaten down for my entire life. I'm literally, and I'm not joking about this, I am 6 feet 280. Right? When this happened, I was 6 feet 220. You know, I've been told that I'm too nice, I'm too this, too that. I don't stand up for myself. I back down too easy and stuff. And it's an ongoing fight. And it's an ongoing thing. And it's still like that. I mean, you know how it is, DK. You're going through almost the same thing emotionally as I have been. And every day you doubt every single move, and every day you question everything. And it's not the mental health aspect I've gone through. This is my entire life. At 9 years old, after my parents got divorced, I was literally, and I'm not even kidding you, I was 4'3", 150 pounds. Let that sink into your head. Try being that size after your parents' divorce and you're devouring bread like it's water. And as Rod takes a swig of water.
On cue.
Mm-hmm.
But to me, this match rolls my life in that era and just in general over time. And, you know, I recorded with, you know, Tim and Joel last night, and I said it, you know, certain aspects in my life have made my route to this. And this match, when I ask people in match memories, what's the one match or pay-per-view that's changed your life? This is the match that it has changed everything in my life. It literally, from that point over, I was being told I'm not worth it. I'm too big. I shouldn't be playing around with certain people. Kind of like what the Big Show is. I was the biggest kid in my class. I was the biggest kid from all the way up to middle school.
Same.
And it was nonstop. I would have kids literally try to beat the shit out of me just to prove that they were the biggest dog in the yard. Because, well, he's the big guy. He's probably the big dog. When I don't fight, I don't believe in it. I don't want to hurt anybody. And you piss me off, you bet your ass. I've had stories of friends where they see me getting mad, kind of like, and you guys will laugh at this, Happy Gilmore, where he goes, all of a sudden, Waterboy, where he starts going out like that and just goes right through everybody. There'd be a lot of holes in my mom's house, me punching right through it when people pissed me off. And up to that, you know, after having and then finally finding out when this happened, literally a few days before that, or after that, I was going to be diagnosed with epilepsy, like all that stuff weeks or months later. I can't remember off the top of my head. All that happened. It was just, you know, it was a game changer. So for me, this match means more to in depth on it. Now, if this ever gets to WWE, and gets to Taker or Foley, I really want to say thank you. I know you guys put your bodies on the line and stuff like that, but what you did in that match changed more of my life than anything else that up to that point.
Yeah.
And it's very difficult for anything. Now, I rewatched that match, and then I sat back and I was like, damn, it's the same thing my mom went through. Not the whole, all the moves and all that stuff, but just the story about what happened during the cage match and stuff like that. It just, you know, Foley with his teeth is just reminding me her propped up in the hospice bed, and there she is looking at me smiling, and then she says, I love you. regardless of anything. But I digress. I've taken a good chunk of time.
No, man.
Rob,
It's your platform to speak on your mom, bro.
Yeah, and I know this.
Our friends are rolling in.
Yeah, and this is
speaking of one of the guys that, and I want to say this finally. Now.
What up, beautiful hair man?
I'm hoping if Sean's listening, and I would love to have Sean on this at the same time. I want to thank Warren and Rob for getting me through this. And then we got Tim also. All our friends are coming in, and that's Warren, what I wanted.
What's up, buddy?
I didn't want to interrupt. I didn't even get to say hello. Hi. I'm sitting around. I'm getting my notes ready for the show tonight, and I get a DM. I'm like, who the fuck DMs me on a Thursday night? They know they're not supposed to be disturbing me. But Throwback plays by another set of rules.
Yeah.
Good to see you.
Yeah, obviously there is no rules, but Warren, do you see what's behind me right now?
Oh, look at that. I hadn't seen that yet. Look at that's awesome, man.
So Warren, I'm gonna go ahead and ask you, man. What does King of the Ring '98, especially the Hell in a Cell match? What do you like about that match, or what brings you back to that match? What do you think of?
Specifically of the Hell in a Cell?
Yep.
Man, I mean, this is a match that's it's evolved for me over the years, right? Because I think like just like anyone else at that time, you look at it and it's the most insane thing you've ever seen. You see guys getting thrown all over the place, but we don't have at that time like the realization that we do now, with CTE and all the history that's fallen back over with Mick Foley and how ultimately his body has just been destroyed over the years. You look back at him being thrown off the cell and then through the cell in a bubble in a void. You're like, this is insane. What am I looking at? What are these people doing? Like superheroes, right? These are superhuman people. They're not supposed to be standing up after this. Then you take a few steps back and you look at the legacy. You look at what it's left us, how it's left Mick Foley specifically, and you're like, man, was I really that bloodthirsty? At the time, did I really want that level of violence and complete disregard for your body to that point? Sure, I mean, it made Mick Foley on that night. That's what I mean. That's what elevated him. That's what made him a superstar, household name, whatever you want to call it. But it's a double-edged sword in 2020. Looking back on it, 22 years later, it's just very, very. It's a mixed bag of emotions. How about that?
Yeah, that's a perfect answer, and you hit it right on the head. Like I going back to like what you're talking about, CTE. Every once in a while, I'll see we'll see the clips of The Rock when he gets hit with a chair, or when somebody gets Pat Patterson. Now it's like it's crazy because you just look at what happened to Cody Rhodes last year from Shawn Spears.
There you go.
We've seen that hundreds of times, and it just took him out. It's just crazy.
And when it happened last year, everyone lost their shit.
Yes.
Yeah.
Everyone was like, what is he doing taking chair shots to the head? That's how much we've evolved. That's how much we've grown to understand the nature of head injuries, the nature of CTE, trauma. It's not necessarily stuff that we want to revisit. Last week Cody was on the AEW podcast, and he was saying, I wanted to bring chair shots back to the boys, chair shots to the heads of the boys. I'm like, no, Cody, no, don't, because then the thing that happens is that maybe he'll be like, yeah, we'll do it safely, but then exactly what's going to happen. Then a bunch of indie guys are going to start doing it. Then the independent circuit is going to start being riddled with all these people who are going to be taking chair shots to the head, and we're going to take the real head chair shots, not like they do in AEWs, kind of thing. and then you're going to end up with a whole bunch of people whose career is going to be shortened before it ever even takes off. I can't vouch for that stuff. It's irresponsible. I don't think there's a safe way to do it. They tried to do it safely, and look what happened.
Yeah.
Right. Yep.
Well, what about you, Tim? What do you remember about this match, and what do you like, and what draws you back to it?
Well, personally, I don't know if my mic's on. I guess it is. But anyway, personally, to me, I want to pick off what Warren says. By the way, hi, Warren.
Tim.
Warren's right. I personally, when I was a little kid, I actually watched this on Monday Night Raw, and seeing Mick Foley jumping off the top of or Taker knocking him off the top of the cage down to the table. And I think it was King or JR sitting there writing their mouth off, look, or saying something. My God, that as a kid around, I don't know what year that was it 98 when this happened?
98.
Yeah.
Personally, it traumatized me for a while, and it really, and I felt bad for Mick because I'm a huge Mick fan. I love Mick Foley. I never seen him when he was doing death, what was it, like in Japan when he was doing his death matches or whatever. But I am a big fan of him, and I hate when people call me, excuse the language, a fucking mark. I am not a fucking mark. I'm a fan. There's a difference. I just personally, those are the fine memories I had besides me watching back then ECW and WCW, and also one you were like this. I used to watch NWA, but to get back to the point, that's what really traumatized me until I was like, I don't know, maybe I was about 15, 16 years old, and I remembered, I'm like, okay, yeah, I can understand it now.
Yeah.
You bored Throwback to tears with your comments. He just left. He's like, I can't stand Tim anymore. So I'm hitting the bricks.
So Warren, the one thing that I know is you actually interviewed Mick Foley a couple months ago, July, I think.
Yep.
So you know how much of a good guy he is. I've had the pleasure of meeting him in Chicago myself. Really nice guy, really friendly. Since you're on here, what about like your interview with him? What brings you back to that? Like how was it? Like I watched it, but I want to know like what. Like
full disclosure, when I started the interview, before we started, I told him, and legitimately, Mick Foley is one of my top 5 wrestlers of all time, and it's not necessarily because of his work, and I can't stand the deathmatch stuff. He brought something to wrestling back then, which was just so unique in his delivery and his characterizations, his personality, the comedy, the sincerity, and so when we finally got on the call and started talking, I started gushing like I was 12 years old. I was like, "Oh, Mick, you have no idea how good." And he was like, "Thank you." You know, he's like, and he's just like, "Thank you very much. That's very kind of you to say." And I told him, I said, "Look, I know this is the least professional thing I should be doing right now. He's sitting here and acting," but he said, "No, it's fine." Anyway, but the word I'd use to describe him is down to earth. That's how I describe Mick Foley. Just so
I heard that bored Tim to death by leaving a message in the private saying I had to go to the bathroom. Come on,
it's just some ribbing. But that's how I'd say that's how I'd call him, down to earth and just a good human. Because the interview he came on was we talked about Christmas movies. That's all we talked about. His love of Christmas, which is super well documented, and just his favorite, because it was in July. We did a Christmas in July thing, and that's what we went for. That's all we were talking about. We were talking about these movies, you know, and it's wild when you think that this was a guy who was, you know, in exploding mind death matches in FMW in the 90s, and here he is, you know, saying, "Yeah, my favorite Hallmark movie is the one." is this one here, Pemberley Manor. It's like, what? But it's fantastic, and isn't that good and fun these days to just see these wrestlers? And I think this is important too. See these wrestlers as what they do, their main level of performance, but then get to know them in, as something else, as a person who has other likes and interests that doesn't always talk about, hey, show me how to lock in a Koji clutch kind of thing. They're not always talking about wrestling. They have other interests. They want to do other things. And especially in this context of what WWE is doing, I think it's particularly telling, that I think we're at a point where since we all know the business is work, I think it's fine to see them as characters, but we have to be able to see them as people, as humans, as talent, as opposed to just like these cookie cutter characters, because they're not as much as people like to make these comparisons, they're not the Avengers. They're not Captain America, because at some point there's no Chris Pratt's, Chris Hemsworth, they all stopped doing the characterizations. They all stopped putting on the suplex, the spandex, and go off and do other things. And it's the same thing with wrestlers ultimately,
Yeah, for sure. And one of the things too, so I'm just going to talk about this match some more. We all know that this match set the bar for the Hell in a Cell. Like, I mean, you think about Hell in a Cell, this is the match you think about. One of the things about this match is, like I've been saying, it's one of the most important WWF matches of all time, like for the 90s. One thing
before you go there, by the way, that drink, by the way, it doesn't have any vodka if anybody's worried about me drinking tonight.
No, we're fine.
So like the one thing about this match is it was actually Dave Meltzer's highest rated WWF match for 1998. He gave it a 4.5, which compared to now you see 5.5, 6.5s, and maybe an occasional has he only given 1 or 2 7s? Either way, but it was the highest match for WWF in 1998. One of the things too, and Warren, you might know this guy, Michael Landsberg of TSN off the record. He says in his opinion, he actually said it maybe the most famous match ever. I don't know if I'd go that far, but I can definitely, like I said earlier, I remember showing people this match that didn't even like wrestling, and they were just like, what in the hell was that?
It's transformative is what it was.
Oh yeah, for sure.
That match changed so many lives, and including mine. It's ridiculous, and the personal connections to it is ridiculous.
And I go back and I'm thinking about like that comment, and I was a junior in high school, and I just remember like, damn, like when growing up, I wanted to be a professional wrestler. I was like, that's what I wanted to do. And I'll be honest, that night I'm like, maybe not. It didn't happen obviously, but the thing is
if you don't mind, because I'm going to have to leave soon, because I am preparing for my own stream in 2 hours, and yes, it takes me 2 hours to prepare it because I'm detail oriented. Sue me.
No problem.
He's analytical like I am.
There you go.
Same here.
But maybe my last thought on this. Like Rob, you said it right. It's the match that set the bar, right? And from that point on, we all know it. Even if it's not explicitly said, we all know that every time a wrestler or wrestlers get into the Hell in a Cell, they want to try to top the spot. They want to have the big holy shit moment. Now you see what's happened over the past few years. Not every Hell in a Cell, but the big Hell in a Cell matches, they always have someone falling off the cage now, right?
I just want to send that to my friends. Sorry, Warren, I know you got to go. Again, like I said, thank you from the bottom of my heart for everything you've done, for helping me out and stuff. You and Rob and Sean have been a big integral part of my life in the last over a year or so, and I appreciate it.
It's not a problem, man. And like you've shown tons of support as well on my end too. So I'm equally appreciative.
I just want
to just to finish my thought real quick though. People get thrown off the cage all the time now. It happened just at Hell in a Cell with Drew McIntyre. Do we remember it? Did you remember that Kevin Owens was thrown off the cage as well?
Yeah.
We don't remember that anymore, and that's the I guess it's the part where it's the deal with the devil. It's the monkey paw situation here, where you create this situation, this event where it's like, oh my God, it's so huge, and then everyone tries to do it again, but then we do it over and over and over again, and then it's now par for the course. Someone's gonna fly off the cage. Who is it gonna be? Oh, it's that guy, it's that girl. Cool, and then we move on, and we don't remember the spot, and that's really sad.
Yeah.
Whereas this match, you remember every single spot of the match.
Sure, because it was the first.
Warren, go ahead and tell people where you can, where they can find you and what time your show is tonight.
I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know.
Well, I didn't say give your home address. I just said
you mean
your YouTube spell.
Come in for biscuits and gravy, everyone.
Yeah.
Warren,
How about this? Warren will be on youtube.com/Mr. Warren Hayes in 9 o'clock, 2 hours after this. Also, after we go off at 8 o'clock, Tim and Joel in the ring is right before it. So literally, you're going to go from very, very depressing, sad stuff to analytical stuff to.
I thought you were talking about Tim and Joel.
To a man who is high octane, has too much coffee in his veins, and just goes.
This is true. Well, thank you very much. I appreciate the kind words, Pat, but they are definitely echoed. You've shown a lot of support. And Rob as well. And Wildboy, every time I pop on here, we never have a proper time to talk.
I know.
It's all Rob's fault this time. He just kept asking me questions, and I came on to talk to Wildboy. It'll be next time, Tim.
Don't you have a
next
review
time,
show
bro.
coming up for another pay-per-view down the line?
Do I have a pay-per-view?
Yeah, a review show coming down in next month.
I've got. Well, as long as they keep making them, I'll have people on for sure.
Why don't you have Wildboy on?
Why don't hey, combination prediction show, cooking show, and we'll do it. That'd be amazing.
Perfect.
That sounds like a plan.
That's a plan.
It was good to see you too, Tim. Good to see everyone.
Yep, YouTube one.
Love you, bro.
Take it easy.
Yep.
All right, that was perfect. I'm glad he came on. That was good. So we've been talking about the match quite a bit.
First, I know we're talking about the match because I know they're watching and stuff. Like I said, I was talking about this from Mark is in the chat. He was. Remember how I told you, Rob, about a friend that. And my mom's like this, and like I said, this is about the match and everything else. About a buddy that would walk in, there would be food spread out for him in his name and stuff like that, have his own beer with it and stuff. That's him.
Cool.
So
welcome, Mark.
Today means a lot to him and Michelle and Julie because they're in real life, they're the extension of me. And I tell them all the time, but finally I could do this on camera. I appreciate you guys so much. I love you guys so much. And at the end of the day, you guys, including Melissa, if she's watching, are the ones that been through the trenches. Hell, even Jess through the trenches and stuff like that, and have seen me through all this. So you can understand why this match means a lot. So with Foley, if you're going to go through where Foley, they get out on there, are you going that route? Like he's going up top of the cage at this point?
Yeah, well, I was about to, but I wanted to ask you one thing since we're talking about this and how much it means to you. I'm going to go ahead and put you on the spot here.
This is weird.
Yeah, this is why I want. If you don't want to, I get it. I completely understand. But I want you to tell us about your mom. What.
This is why Mark needs a camera. He'll never go on camera to help me do this.
But just tell me about your mom. What was good memories, like something that like just makes you laugh, or something that you did, or maybe she did, or like
when
just
she,
a
I'll tell
memory.
you. Well, I'll tell you what because she was watching this with me. And then I'll talk about her in general. When my uncle got this pay-per-view and stuff, and she was there watching it, she was telling him to shut the bleeping thing off, shut it off, shut it off. She didn't want me seeing it, and there I am. I'm like, nah. I'm like, oh my god! I was like all like in shock and happy at the same time. But as Mark can even contested to it, Michelle can a little bit, and Melissa and Jess. My mom had a heart of gold. Like people say, I have a heart of gold. No, my mom was the same to a lot of people. She was highly protective of the people she cared about. So like Roddy, Michelle, Julie, everybody, Jess and everybody, my sister, me, our family. If she cared about you deeply, she was very protective of you. Like I really think that if she met Crystal, she would say thank you to Crystal. And if Crystal's watching, that's honest truth. I think if she met Rob, Sean, and Warren, she would make fun of Warren, tell Sean thank you, and give you a hug and tell you there's a beer in the fridge for you, Rob. So I mean, that's how she is. The Thanksgiving, there would be potato stuffing, there would be all this stuff. Her favorite holiday is like freaking Christmas. Like this house is going to be decorated. So when I do this show during the next month, it's going to be insane.
Cool.
And I'm going to, by the way, I am going to do this for DK too, because it's only right if I do a match memories. He does the same thing, because me and him are going through the same much. If you agree on that, my friend.
Of course.
So, she was born in Malden, raised in Lowell, and she was bright and articulate, smart. She would put me and my sister in our place at times, like every other parent does, but she'd do it in a funny way. I'm 6 feet, like I said. My mom was 5'2". Now, picture the height discrepancy on that trying to reach me. Like, in order to make a statement, there would be a frying pan in her hand, and she'd be twirling it. And as soon as you're in trouble, and Mark can contest this, you just shut up. You just said, I'm sorry, before she either walked towards you and walked away. There's a story, and I'm going to put Mark on the spot. I love you, dude. Don't kill me or don't call me afterwards. But she made people feel like it's home. So now with the channel going this route, it is going to feel like home. Now people popping in and out like Tim has, Warren has. Hell, if Jeremy's watching, Jeremy, you're more welcome to pop in. If you're not busy, people in the community are welcome to. She made people feel welcome no matter what. And like an instance, the only time I've ever seen her get mad at Mark was Mark ended up holding a bowel movement for a while after my sister ticked him off. And let's just say this much. I had to run out of the house with him, and then my mom flipped out on me and him for 45 minutes. So like I said, Rob used to get food. Like he would get his favorite food. He'd get a Killian 6-pack Irish Red with a note on it. Just because he was just coming over or he's staying over. He got upset because of the fact that he didn't get that for 3 weeks. He got treated with so much respect and dignity by that woman. She even said to him when I was engaged to be married, and I've been divorced for almost a year, you have no choice. There's no other choice. There's only one person. And if you don't make him your best man, I will make sure your life's a living hell.
Cool. All right. Well,
and that is her character. She made sure that everybody was comfortable, welcome. If you were watching the Red Sox game, if you had a Yankees cap, you had to put it outside. If you had like a Detroit hat, she'd have you come in. She'd make food from Detroit if she could find something from there. She'd buy it. She'd make Irish food for you. She'd make, shepherd's pie from scratch. She'd make all this stuff, and there was never a dull moment in that house. I mean, there would be Star Wars nights. There would be playing video games. When we came out, we would be having competitions, doing bowling and stuff. When Michelle came into my life, I told her about Josh, and Josh would be always welcome, like towards the tail end of my marriage and stuff. And she basically allowed people come in and sit and just hang out with her, even if I was at school at college and I was taking the bus home, and Mark would be there sitting there for 45 minutes if he got out of work. Or we went to the day Michelle met my mom, we went to an Irish pub and had, Irish food. And the last memory I have that is going to be sad, and this is why I'm warning them about it, is Julie. And Julie meeting my mom and saying goodbye at the same time was the most amazing and heartbreaking thing ever. And I love that little girl to death. They know it. I would literally take my life and save that girl. And the reason being is because I knew my mom loved her. My mom never met her, and she got them a gift when Michelle was pregnant. My little girl's first black dress. That's how the character is. She took me to baseball games. She took me to Red Sox games, Bruins games. She did all the stuff father was supposed to do because my dad left when I was 10 years old to go to California. I mean, she was the parent above and beyond. And every time I tell a single parent this and I tell them about her, they get taken back by it because they don't know how to react. Because how do you react to a guy who's single telling you that you're a single parent, you're stronger than you think, and you don't even know the person that's telling you this? Well, I've gone through it. It's different from some people who have both parents, but when you only have one that's there on a 24/7 basis, it changes you.
Yep.
All right. Well, I appreciate you sharing that. Yeah, going. Sorry, guys. I had to ask because and I told him. He told me months ago when I do this that he goes, "I don't want you to hold back. If you want to ask something, do it." And I told him I would, and I did. So, and I wanted to know, so that's why I did it. But going back to the match, I'm going to talk about it for just a minute. Go give you a little bit of a history. So, upon debuting with the World Wrestling Federation at the time in 1996 is when Mick Foley, aka Mankind, came in to feud with The Undertaker right away. He debuted the night after WrestleMania 12 when he interfered in The Undertaker's match with a guy named Justin Hawk Bradshaw, who would later become JBL. So for the next few months, Mankind and Undertaker would have several matches. Their feud would intensify, and they began taking their battles into crowds, backstage arenas, into boiler rooms, and that was like you had the boiler room match eventually. And then he also cost the Undertaker the Intercontinental Championship at In Your House 8, where he assisted Goldust to win the title. So Mankind, when he came in at a time period where WWF was not doing well at all. I mean, it was at the point where they weren't making much money, and
that was the same time that they were losing the Monday Night Wars at the same time.
Yeah, it was right. Right about that time. That's when they started losing. That was pretty much right then. It was pretty close to it. So basically, they would stop their feud for a little while, and they would build back up to King of the Ring, 98. So they kind of always had like a feud, even though like it was kind of like $1 Million Man and Hulk Hogan. Sometimes they didn't feud, but you always knew that if they came across each other, there would be problems. That was the Undertaker and Mankind. They just always had a feud, but it wasn't always running. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's one thing that just going back to the old days, and I can't believe I'm saying that about the 90s is the old days, but it is now.
It is.
And
Yeah, I
and
feel.
we don't.
Thank you.
And I kind of, and this is just review, but I kind of start seeing that now with AEW to an extent. They're kind of doing that, and I'm hoping, and WWE did that with Randy Orton and Edge, where they had their friendship, but they also have had amazing matches against each other. So
Yeah.
I love that aspect where you can keep a feud going. A feud doesn't have to end necessarily, and like totally end. You can let guys go on for a little while. Like to give you another example, I would love for AJ Styles and Samoa Joe to have another feud down the road.
Hell yeah.
But so,
Mhm.
but that's one thing that I love about going back to this match is they had a feud that lasted for a while, and that's pretty cool.
It's the same way with Kane and Taker. I was watching the documentary, The Brothers of Destruction, and that is possibly the longest storyline WWE/WWF has done ever. If you think about how long that storyline for Kane and Taker has been, it's ridiculous. I would love to see, and this is hopefully going to happen, Roman how he is now and AJ, and just go back to that time where AJ was just getting off the ground in WWE when he first came. And he even says it in some interviews that Roman, not Cena, is the reason why he is where he is.
Yeah.
So it'd be interesting to see that combination. But I mean, freaking Hannigan.
So, yeah. So going back 14. So going back or going forward rather for this match. But kind of going to set it up. So basically, right before the match, Terry Funk and Mick Foley were having discussions about the Hell in a Cell Bad Blood match that The Undertaker and Shawn Michaels had. And Foley and Funk were basically brainstorming. And I took this quote from Wikipedia, and so it's true. But no, I've actually heard this quote before. They were brainstorming ideas about how they could top that match. And one thing that Mick Foley loves about Terry Funk is Terry Funk would always help anybody for the most part. Like if you had a question or you wanted an idea or just Terry Funk would help anybody really. He was that good of a guy. You still wouldn't want to make him mad, but he was that kind of guy. Now, Funk was laughing when they were coming up with ideas, and he said, you should just let him throw you off the top of the cage. And Foley said, yeah, I shot back and then I could climb back up and he could throw me off again. Man, that was a good one. We were having a good time, he said, thinking that was completely ludicrous. But guess what? We know they did it. And it's funny how they thought, how Terry Funk just was like, yeah, there's no way that's going to happen. We can laugh about it. But the fact that that Mick Foley actually did that is just crazy.
Yeah, and Vince even asked him if he could climb the cage.
Yeah. So, but
now that was the precursor why there's holes in the cell now for people to climb.
Well, and the one thing too about this is they presented the idea to the Undertaker, and he was hesitant. He said, going as far as to ask Foley, Mick, do you want to die? He reluctantly agreed to perform the spot, and there we go. So that's what it was planned. There's been a lot of talk about, was this ever planned? Did it go the way that it was supposed to? When this match, I'm going back to it, and I'm just wow, and what's so crazy is Foley actually trained in the Pennsylvania, Pittsburgh area. He one of his trainers was Dominic DeNucci, and he had a wrestling school in Freedom, Pennsylvania, which was only 25 miles from Pittsburgh. So Foley, everything that happened is Foley's wrestling career started in that area. The sad thing is it could have ended in that area too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
But the next question I want to ask you guys is something that's very important to this match is Jim Ross. what do you think, in a way, this set Jim Ross up for even bigger success down the road? Because I do. Between him, there's certain things. Like, we always go back to this match. Good God Almighty. That killed him. As God is my witness. He is broken in half. We people quote that still to this day. But the other thing they quote, obviously, is Austin. Like, Austin. Like, he would just get so emotional. And
Slobberknocker or
Slobberknocker.
Stone Cold. Stone Cold.
Yeah, I was saying Austin. I'm like, I don't. Yeah, but in a way, do you think this actually made Jim Ross even a bigger name down the road? Like, or
Absolutely.
Okay.
Mhm.
Absolutely. I mean, my God, and he's broken in half. Like, that's etched in all of our memories. And, like, you would tune in for the crazy spots to see how JR would react to it. And sometimes you would want to hear what he said more than you want to see the spot. And it was memorable for that to be 22 years later, and he's still doing it. He's the voice of professional wrestling. Like, the memorable quotes and his excitement for when big stuff like that happened resonated through the TV to us, and it impacted all the fans.
Yeah.
And he, at that point, is the voice of a generation until Cole takes over and becomes the voice of this generation. And the funny part is Cole was just like an announcer, like a backstage announcer for a while, and then look where he is now. It's amazing the evolution of it, especially with The Rock giving him wedgies constantly and stuff. But Ross, in his own right, is literally still going to be the voice of that generation during the Attitude Era, regardless of what he is. Him now is not that, but if you go back and listen to that stuff, he was a major player in that. And then they had Michael Cole on SmackDown, and look where he is now. He's a voice of a lot of things. I mean, there's quotes from Cole you could read off in the back of your head and think, wow, you know, the whole Daniel Bryan winning the championship at WrestleMania 30, you know, how he did it. You know, there's so many good lines that these guys can do. Yeah, it's just insane. It's going to be one of those things where you look back at Cole's career, he's still, and it's sad to say, he's going to be compared when he's done and doing, you know, announcing behind that desk, is that he's still going to be compared to Ross no matter what.
Yeah. And, you know, Vince, not going off topic too much, when Jim Ross left, the way he did, and it wasn't his choice by any means, Vince McMahon put Michael Cole in a position where he wasn't going to win, in a way. I mean, I don't know if you remember, but when Michael Cole took over Jim Ross, fans were not happy, you know, so he was in a bad spot. Over time,
not happy is an understatement.
Well, true, but over time, he's actually gotten a lot better. Like fans don't despise him like they did.
Him and Graves together is pretty good combination.
Yeah. And I for sure. Graves, I think, helped a lot with that. Yeah. I really do. But yeah, I just wanted to make sure we talked about Jim Ross because he's so important to that match. I don't think there's anybody that could have done. I think Jim Ross helped make that match, as crazy as that sounds, because it's the soundtrack, and a soundtrack's important for a film, and that's the way I look at it. That's
the perfect way to put it.
Yeah. But going back into the match, a lot of people don't know this, but the Undertaker was actually working with he had a broken foot at the time.
Yeah.
He was in a boot. That match took a toll on both guys.
And you can see Taker landed on that ankle too when he climbed down the cell after you threw him through the cell, and he landed awkwardly. You can see him hobbling and wobbling on that ankle too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and the first person, like when Foley hit the ground the first time, the first person that came out with was Terry Funk. Then followed at that time was one of the doctors. If I'll say his name, I'm going to butcher it, but I think it's Dr. Francois Petit. Petit. It's Pettit. So I'm going to just go with Petit. I'm going to hell for that one, but including like various others. But Foley was placed on the stretcher and was being wheeled out of the arena. And moments later, there was commotion at the entrance ramp, and he made his way back up to the cell, climbing to the top of the structure. And the Undertaker had a look that still, like, I still think about it. Where he goes, he's just like, what in the hell? What in the hell is this guy doing? And that's no, you know. Well, we're in that stuff, yeah. But anyways,
I gotta represent.
Yeah, I'll kick you off.
I'm gonna say this much. Let's get Tim in here. Yo, Tim from Tim and Joel in the Ring. You have not been on this screen once. I dare you to get your butt in here.
So yeah, I just wanted to add that, like how the Undertaker's face, like he just couldn't believe it. He thought it was over, you know. Yeah. And I strongly recommend anybody who has the WWE Network to go watch that story. There is a network special on it. I can't remember the name of it, but there is one. So definitely check that out.
Untold.
Yeah,
Thank you. I watched it twice. I just couldn't remember the name.
Yeah, I watched it when I woke up a couple hours ago.
Oh, good. Yeah, so you were prepared. I like it.
Yeah.
And that I just kind of realized that I went past when I was talking about Jim Ross is Jerry Lawler at that time. Jerry Lawler was funny at times, and there was a little quip that Jerry Lawler said after Jim Ross said, good God, will somebody stop the damn match? Enough's enough. Jerry Lawler, and a lot of people don't remember this, I had to go back and listen to it. Lawler added that, just kind of said, that's it, he's dead, you know. and I go back and I laugh because I don't think if I've heard it, I didn't notice it before until I heard him say that. So that was good. And even the Undertaker has said that he thought Foley was dead following that second fall. But he was able to stay in character, and Foley was genuinely knocked out. So that's even where it got scarier. And Terry Funk in his autobiography, he said, watching from the back, I thought he was dead. I ran out here and looked down at him, still lying in the ring where he landed. His eyes weren't rolled back in his head, but they looked totally glazed over like a dead fish's eyes. Could you imagine seeing that guy go through so much, going through getting thrown off not only once but the second time, and you come out and see this? That'd be scary as hell.
Yeah.
So but this match is it's just crazy, and I've said that numerous times, but I don't think it's possible for another match that from a WWE standpoint, I don't think we'll have another match that means like this, has the same type feeling. I think this is a one and done thing, and I think that's a good thing by all means. When Shane McMahon wrestled Undertaker at WrestleMania a few years ago, and he jumped from the top of the cage. If you look, and this goes back on WWF production, but you could tell that they protected Shane, which they should have, but there was a big, there was a protective, I guess, I don't know if you call it bubble, or there was a thing of air basically protecting him.
Quarantine.
What was it?
Quarantine.
Is that what it was? I didn't know.
That's what people are calling protection now.
Oh no, I'm talking about where, when he hit the table, there was it was kind of
smash pad of
padding.
Yeah, there you go. That's probably the best way to put it. There was padding, but yeah, I just think I'm amazed still talking about this match over 20 years later.
Yeah.
Well, and the thing about this match is the legacy of this match is. I mean, I remember Hell in a Cell 2017, Shane and Kevin Owens, and they climb to the top of the cage and they just start doing all these big moves on each other. Like at one point, like you have the pop-up power bomb that happens, and literally, like I still remember people at that time were tweeting out, "This is the scariest."
Thank you, Evan.
What's up, Evan? People were tweeting out at the time, "This is the scariest horror movie this year." Watching them do these big moves on the cage, and I remember at one point because I've watched that match probably 4 or 5 times since because I love it, and I'm in Corey Graves saying, "I'm just praying that the South holds some together," because we remember this match that we're here talking about now 20 years previously where Taker choke slams Mankind and he goes right through the cage. I mean, it's felt every time. And yeah, like the matches aren't as brutal as they used to be, and that's, I think, a good thing overall because it means, you know, that people's bodies aren't getting just completely broken and savaged. But the legacy of this match is such an overpowering thing, even though it's not the first match, it's the second. But you ask people to name a famous Hell in a Cell match, odds are this is going to be the match that is named first. Then you might get Taker and Sean at Bad Blood. You might get Triple H and Cactus Jack at No Way Out 2000. Like you might get some other ones. But odds are you ask any random person on the street to name a Hell in a Cell match, they're going to be talking about this match right here. And the fact that we're still here talking about it 20 plus years later shows that they had magic in it. And what's crazy is how Mick Foley was able to walk away from it and still have a pretty normal life. I mean, he got concussed severely in this, but was able to bounce back. Meanwhile, his daughter, Noelle, goes on a roller coaster, gets a concussion from that, and suffers from it for months. And it's a thing where it's like, I don't know if God was really truly looking out for Mick that day, because he legit should have died after that second fall. Because he said the first fall where he got thrown off and into the announce table was planned. That second one where he went through the cage was not. And the fact that like right when he came down, then the chair came down and hit him in the head immediately afterwards, and he got like legit knocked out. I think Jerry Lawler, was being 100% serious when he said, "That's it, he's dead." I think he thought he really was dead, because, especially because we've heard that the rings back then were not as padded as what they're using now in WWE. Like it's like there's guys who were taking bumps then, and they go to take a bump in the WWE in a WWE ring now, and they go, "Oh wow, this is really padded. Like this is a lot better, and this is gonna protect your body more," because they were so incredibly thin back in the day.
Sure. So this is more of a like fantasy wrestling question, just to kind of change it up. If you were to, I'm trying to figure out how I want to word this. If there was a match today that, if they were given the leeway, what match, like where they could do something like that? I'm not saying that we need to see it, obviously, for safety needs, but who are two guys, and they can be from whatever promotion you want, but who are two guys that you think could have a match like this now? Not necessarily, like, I'm not saying we don't need the violence, like, but I'm just saying, like, from a standpoint of you could see it happening, or you just kind of maybe think, like for me, I would probably say I could see like a Kevin Owens versus John Moxley type match of them going that far. But who's maybe somebody you guys could see like having a match like that?
So are you thinking like as far as like having like say a match we'll talk about 20 minutes later or 20 years later?
Yeah, I'm talking like let's say a Hell in a Cell match. It doesn't necessarily have to be this violent, but
I'm already going to butt into this and tell you that there has already been a match like that, and it's on the women's side. And right now, I'm still going to say this today, that Charlotte and Banks' first women's Hell in a Cell is going to be talked for another 20 years.
See, here's the thing. I'm going to disagree with you a little bit. I think we just saw it at this last Hell in a Cell. I think Sasha and Bailey did it. And, and I've been saying ever since we saw that match, I loved the Sasha and Becky match from last year. I'm a big Becky fan, obviously, but that Sasha and Bailey match, I think that was such a step above in the storytelling and in everything that honestly, I think just like people are still talking about Brooklyn with those two, I think they're going to be talking about this Hell in a Cell match. And part of it will be of how it's like weird that they did the match now and didn't save it for Mania. But once they get talking about the actual match itself, they're going to be talking about just what a phenomenal job that those two did. I think we've already seen it, to be honest.
Okay.
What about you, DK?
I'm thinking KO and Samoa Joe. Ooh, type of hardcore, no squat, just going at it. Two beastly men in the ring, going at it, beating the living shit out of each other. I think those two guys could provide that.
Cool. Yeah, it was just something that came to my mind when I was talking about that. But going back into the match some more, Mick Foley later said that the only reason he survived that fall was because he did not take the choke slam properly. He said that he was too exhausted to lift his body weight in response to that chokehold. He actually said that in his book, Have a Nice Day. Foley called it the best and worst choke slam he ever took, saying despite its looks, and he would have likely died if he landed properly. He also cited that the fact that the ring onto which he landed had a harder surface than most of the modern rings, which you just said. And that stopped his momentum when he landed. Foley basically would later explain that the roof of the cell was supposed to sag sufficiently so that the Undertaker could kick him through, allowing him to dangle by his feet and eventually fall in rotation to land on his front. Years later, the Undertaker would note that before executing that choke slam, he had been standing with his left foot on the same panel that Foley fell through, but at the last second decided to instead place it on the support bar that the panel was attached to, so he would have had more stability for the spot. That a lot. If we all think about that, they always show that first spot where he gets thrown onto the table. But they were both devastating. But this one looks like it. Yeah, this one's the one where I think if it happened to me, I think I'd still be laying right there in the Civic Arena. I think that's how bad it was. Going back on it, what do you guys find? The first fall or the second fall? Which one's more memorable for you?
The second one, for me, at least, because of the fact that even though the table, he was thrown off the top of the cell, the second one made a bigger impact because of the fact that, he was completely out of it. But if I remember right, because I can remember this match verbatim because that's how big of an impact it was. I believe he got up and he crawled over, and I think that was when his tooth was dislodged, and he got up and pulled himself out of the hole and got up into the corner, and they took that photo of him with the tooth in his mouth. Yeah. Now, something you didn't mention in the match was that when he was in that position, he was trying to see if he could feel his teeth because he couldn't feel anything with his tongue. And then when he realized that it went through up to his nose, when there was a gap in between, he was like, crap. Not in those words, but you know what I mean.
Yeah, I don't know, because that first fall, that's the one that has the most iconic lines. Good God, he's killed him. As God is my witness, he's broken in half. JR screaming for somebody to stop the damn match and saying, if there's somebody in the back who wants to get off their lazy butts, we need some help out here. Like, there's so many memorable lines from JR specifically at that time, and the fact that when they started wheeling Foley up the ramp, and JR is like, well, folks, I'm sorry about that, and Jerry's like, what are you saying sorry for? And then Foley gets up and starts walking back, and they are genuinely shocked. Like they weren't kayfabing it there. They were genuinely shocked that Foley was back up and actually was climbing back up of the ring, or back up onto the cage. And the fact too is I remember for years that was the spot that was shown over and over again on TV in various packages. They might even still do it once in a while now. That first one of him coming off the cell right into the announce table. That's one that I think of when I think of this match. I think of that first one.
I think of the second one with him falling with the chair, because he could have fell awkwardly with that chair. It could have went a lot worse than it did. He could have landed on his throat. It could have landed inside of his back. And it could have been way worse. And I think the chair bounced and hit him in the face a little bit. But just imagine falling like that with an object that could kill you. And I think Foley is blessed that it didn't happen, but I'll remember that one more than him going through the table.
Yeah, it was...
like I said, that like DK said, that with the chair, it could have even impaled him with the force coming up from his body going straight down into that hole, and the chair coming up, it could have just impaled him completely.
Mm-hmm.
Or impale him with the end of the chair. If it hit just right, there wouldn't be a Mick. They would be rushing him and trying to save him.
Yeah.
And then the pay-per-view would just stop. Just to refer, like with Owen, they didn't have, once Owen fell, they cut the feed and waited till it was over and left that, technical difficulty Monarch on that. They would end up doing that. It's crazy to see a good-hearted guy still alive and standing when people still think how many times he could have been dead.
Yeah.
Well, hey, I'm bounce, boys. I got to get to work, but
all right, man. Thanks for coming on.
The rest of the show.
So, one thing, like going back to this match. So after Foley landed, after a few minutes, he basically was smiling through his profusely bleeding mouth and his lips with the loose tooth hanging beneath his nose.
Imagine him going to a bar and picking up a woman after that. Jeez. Hey, baby, you want to see a parlor trick? I got a tooth in my nose.
So he was basically, the tooth was from him being knocked out due to the stroke of the chair. That's what caused that when it fell through the cage, and it landed on his face, and that actually dislocated his jaw as well. So that made the match go on a little bit longer because he was still he just got his butt kicked basically. Which Foley also was chokeslam onto a pile of thumbtacks. And Foley was the one that actually let those thumbtacks out, so he's the one that it
was a glutton for punishment at that point.
So basically, that was the end of the match. Undertaker hit the tombstone pile driver to end the match. And that pile driver, or that tombstone, basically also ended the feud. Both wrestlers received a standing ovation after the match. Foley has been on the record saying that although the match grew in legend, the reality was that his career remained somewhat sluggish for some times afterwards. And he said that was to further develop the Mankind character, and fans began to catch on. Foley would go on to become a 3-time WWF champion after that match, and he would be later on inducted into the WWE Hall of Fame in 2013. So that match, it's very important in WWF lore, but the other thing is that match made the that match made Mankind into the Hall of Fame, Mick Foley into the Hall of Fame, I believe. Now, one other thing I was going to add, if WWE ever goes into actually putting matches into the Hall of Fame, there's been talk about that. Nothing ever like official, but there's been rumors that eventually they might go that route. This will definitely be a Hall of Fame match. Would you guys agree with that?
First one inducted.
That would be it. That would be first unanimous ever. There would be no hesitation to that. That match is par none. The level of all matches in that type. To this day, you hear people still talking about it. I think Sasha was talking about it when they did the day of how being in that structure changes you and everything. Sean was narrating the beginning of it, saying you will never come out the same way you came in.
Yeah.
It literally alters your perspective of life and course correction of things. That's why when people say, well, wrestling is just, it's fake. No, it's predetermined, but the physicality is real. These are real people. These people are getting hurt for a living. Yeah. And to equate this as a history nut, picture this as predetermined gladiators in Roman times. There was no predetermination. You were killed or be killed.
Right.
Yeah. So, like, for example, if me and Rob did something and DK was officiating, there wouldn't be no bell to stop the match. It would be whoever's standing last. Of course, I would probably be on the ground because obviously I'm a pushover. But nonetheless, it's just that's how it was. Gladiatory competitions back then, it was, there was lions, there were animals and stuff like that. In wrestling, you might be predetermined, but the physicality of being thrown 20 feet high off of a cage and stuff, Yeah. I should deliver dunks to you, my friend. It'd be nice to give you a Dunkin' Donuts gift card. Yes, it was. You just go out and run on Dunkin's. But it's one of those things that it's ridiculous for people to say that, oh, well, you don't know it until you actually hear it in person. You don't, because a lot of times, like, those people felt the bumps, they felt the pain, they felt everything. That you could hear the gasping for air by everybody. They were screaming in shock and horror, and that match that's the standard for Hell in a Cell matches. That should be the standard for every single match in wrestling, because that had so much intricate storytelling. Now, that was pre-match and after-match, but that match itself, it was a complete story from start to finish. You had a guy who, Taker, for the first time on audio, you can hear him say, "Stay down, Mick. Stay down." And he kept getting up.
Yeah.
To make Mick like an animated character, he's Goku. You tell Goku to stand down, he's not smart enough to not stop, and he just wants to keep fighting to get stronger. In that match, Mick just wanted to keep fighting. He wanted to get stronger, and look what happened. And he is one of the greatest wrestlers, hardcore wrestlers in our generation, period. And I agree that Hell in a Cell would be the first match, but I think one of the matches that stands out to me is that match with Edge, where they lit the table on fire and they went through it. That match was, that one match was just insane. So, I mean, for me, obviously for personal reasons, there's no brainer to this. This would be and then if they had to vote people that voted in, it would be no questions asked. It would just be there.
Yeah. So going back about this match, just talking about the aftermath, we got about 10 minutes left. So I'm just going to go over this real quick. Many future matches, this would attempt to be replicated. Like some of the spots, Foley wrote that he could not remember much of what happened in this match, and he had to watch a tape, to write about it. That year, Pro Wrestling Illustrated, for 1998, it won their match of the year. although many of the fans regard that match as a classic, it also has generated a lot of controversy, and I think that's part of why it's talked about so much, is because it was controversial. Just the falls were so extreme, and it set the bar for bumps when you think about it. I mean, WWE has their own Hell in a Cell pay-per-view. That's how big that match was. That they never had that until way after. I mean, that's how big of a deal it was. That match. Foley acknowledged in the 2014 interview for the Monday Night Wars DVD that match taking place today, WWE would immediately stop it after the first fall off the cage. And he actually said, and rightfully so. Foley said that his wife cried during their post-match conversation between the two. It made Foley strongly consider retiring from wrestling. And that's actually 2 years later, Foley did retire from a full-time basis. He didn't wrestle full-time starting in 2000. His last match as a full-time wrestler was a Hell in a Cell match at No Way Out in February of 2000. Foley decided he would replicate his fall through the roof of the cell during the match, but they would have proper precautions were taken to ensure that he would be okay. Vince McMahon said to Mick Foley, "You have no idea how much I appreciate what you have done for this company, but I never want to see anything like that again." So that, I know Vince gets a lot of grief, a lot of feedback, a lot of stuff thrown his way, and a lot of it is rightfully so. But the one thing is he does care about. He doesn't want anybody injured. I will say that, and I think that's been proven over. In a way, it's been proven over time. A lot of guys have broken their backs for him and stuff like that, but it's also one of those things where Vince McMahon, he has a high regard for some people, and that's one thing. And now that I say it, I mean, it's obvious he has regard for some people. Does he have it for everybody? I don't think so. But for Vince to say that to Mick, I'm willing to bet that means a lot to Foley. And Foley's been rather humorous about this match to an extent. He knows that it could have ended his life, but it's also, I think it's made him appreciated more. Would you guys agree with that?
Yeah.
I think he appreciates life more from it. Not from Vince, but he just appreciates his life a lot more because, he puts his kids over. I mean, hell, he had a TV show for a while, and how many people were like wanting to talk to his daughter and stuff like that. Stuff like that. And speaking from, I don't know if you guys have ever had, gotten hurt that bad. I've gotten hurt pretty, not as bad, but close to it. And it makes you question your life, questions a lot of things, even your faith. It even questions that, because you don't know what you'll be like after, but you'll know remember the person you were before. But I don't remember a lot of the person I was before because of, that trash can hit. But I remember a lot of stuff who I am now from that. And it's like, it changes your complete perspective on everything.
Let me ask you guys a question real quick.
Yeah.
Would you rather be thrown off the cell through a table, through the cell to the hard mat, or choke slam on thumbtacks?
Thumbtacks. At least with thumbtacks, I can actually get up and walk away from.
Oh God, I've never actually thought about that. I don't know.
They're all brutal.
Yeah, I don't know. I think, goodness, I would go with the first one.
Through the table.
Yeah, I
I
wouldn't
think I
want
did
to, but
the thumbtacks too.
you guys are nuts.
Mm.
But yeah,
Well, I mean, you are our friend, Rob. So I mean,
Yeah.
does that categorize as insane?
yeah. Everybody look at Ray Callahan says, "Give me the text too." So yeah, that's man. I think you're all nuts, but whatever. So like just
Yeah, of course, Anakin being inappropriate in a stream. That's Anakin, like usual.
So just wrapping the show
Wow.
up, we got about 5 more minutes. And we've talked about Mick Foley more in this match than we have the Undertaker, but I do want to end this on talking about the Undertaker. This coming weekend, they're celebrating his 30 years with the WWE, excluding this match, the King of the Ring 1998. What are give me 2 memories, or give me 2 like Undertaker moments that go back for you guys. Mine I'll go because I'll be quick about it. Mine's the match that he had with Hulk Hogan. I think it was Tuesday in Texas, or maybe Tuesday night in Texas. It was like Survivor Series. It was like 2 days after Survivor Series back in like 88, 89, maybe 90. I can't remember the year. But I remember that. I remember being terrified that he was going to be Hulk Hogan. Now I wish he would have. But so that reminds me of him, or that's one of my earlier memories. And then his matches with Triple H at WrestleMania, like their matches. The King of the Ring stuff, or the Hell in a Cell matches that he had with Shawn Michaels were good, and his feuds with Shawn Michaels were good. But the Triple H ones were just, they seemed more real. So I would go with those 2. And I'm probably forgetting something, but those are the 2 that come to mind right now for me. But I'm gonna go with Wildboy. I want you to go next on that.
All right, so my 2, I'm going to start with him against Batista at WrestleMania 23 because I was there live with my mom. So like we can do a match memories on that. But to have my mom next to me at that WrestleMania watching Undertaker and Batista go at it for the world title, that's memorable. And I'm going to go back and I'm going to go with the higher power angle when Undertaker kidnapped Stephanie and going to crucify her, and Stone Cold had to come and play that hero, and like that built a lot of people in that angle. It built Vince to, we thought Vince was the sad guy because his daughter got attacked, but Vince was behind it. And Taker just like that, he was like that Lucifer angle. He was just this evil bad guy with the Ministry of Darkness, and a lot of people forget about the Ministry. Like he had a good group of solid guys behind him with the APA, the Brood, Midian, Viscera. Like he had that big backing. And then you go to the corporate Ministry with Shane and Vince, and like, man, Taker has done it all in 30 years, and he is the legend that we all say he is.
For me, more so, it's WrestleMania 14. How Taker came out with the Druids for the first time, I believe, for WrestleMania. I think that's the first one. I'm not sure, where he's facing Kane for the first time. Earlier version or years of that, it was when they were going with the whole thing, where's Undertaker? It was like, where's Waldo kind of deal, where they had a casket match and Taker got thrown in the casket, and they kept trying to find where the Undertaker is and stuff, but when it comes to the around later years after like 2000 and stuff, for me more so it was matches with Kane. Like I said, the Brothers of Destruction with Kane and his tag team. There were some matches that I was just in awe of, like the match with, and the audacity of it. And they even covered it on the whole thing with Taker, was that Punk, after Paul Bearer died, and having the audacity to be okay with using the urn that Bearer actually got from a buddy's mortuary that he was friends with, to use that as a prop to get to it. And that match itself, the storytelling and stuff, and Punk, which some people still think that Punk should have won that match to end the streak.
Yeah, he should have. He should have.
It's interesting to hear that. Now, the documentary of the Brothers Destruction that I watched, they were talking that, Lesnar shouldn't, if Vince was going back and forth about Brock ending the streak, and then when Vince said we're pulling it, Mark Calloway was like, okay, that's what you want. And he literally did what, Vince asked him to. But him and Kane were talking about it. We're saying that Roman would have been the perfect person to do it for.
Yeah. And they're like Edge said that he was originally supposed to do it, but he didn't want to.
Yep.
And that's powerful too. But it's 8:00 now, and we're gonna wrap it up. But I just want to say, before we do, I want to say thank you for giving me the opportunity to host this.
You did well, brother.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I know how much this meant to you, Throwback, and you've talked about it for months, and I know that you put a lot of pressure on yourself because of the show, or maybe not pressure, but at least I know how much it meant to you and how you wanted it to be a good show, and I hope we were able to do that for you today.
At the end of the day, I had two people that I preferred in the community, and I said this about the audio. I said I couldn't pick any two people that to have them on the week for the audio for this week's episode would be Tim and Joel, because Joel comes in and out and we make fun of him, and obviously he tried burying people on Tuesday. But to kick it off with the one person that has the same things going on, I'm going to say this straight now. I am so proud of DK, and it takes a lot for a man to go through what we've gone through, but it takes a bigger man to help someone else through it. And the audio show that me and Hid did to kick off this week, I am very, very proud of both of them, and I'm very, very proud of him as a friend. I am very, very humble and to help him eventually next year get to do this for himself when he feels like it. And obviously you've even said it to me, it's kind of like therapy almost. It's almost therapeutic.
It is, yeah.
But I couldn't think of any other two people. One of the three people that helped me get started with this about 6-7 months ago, and the tag team partner, brother in arms with everything with going through loss and family and stuff. And like I said, even on the audio stuff, I'm more grateful to have this community behind me. And I will even name everyone out. Sean Ross Sapp, Fightful, great guy. I was feeling down a few weeks ago. He texted me randomly asking me, I didn't see myself. I get random messages from Rob every day checking up, seeing how I'm doing. Anakin messaged me, Tim, on his Facebook stuff, Ron Patel helping me out with stuff. I mean, just nonstop love and support. Hannah Moore. I only talked to her through Twitter, and then getting her on camera, doing the audio roundtable with you guys, doing the audio stuff, it makes life a lot more interesting, a lot more fun, gives me something to be more therapeutic. Now people are like, well, maybe you should see somebody and stuff. I'll tell you this much, this is therapy for me, because I get to express stuff that I absolutely love and adore. I mean, my mom took me to my first wrestling show, just like, DK was saying him and his mom went to one. And I'm old enough to remember this. The old Boston Garden. Yeah, figure how old. Yeah, I'll be 40. And it's insane how much everybody is. Like we got Tim in the chat, Anakin, Wildboy was dabbing in, freaking hitting up Anakin about Noel Foley. Tim, Roddy showed up, you know, people who are going to watch this and stuff. If Hannah is watching, I appreciate it. Sean, Warren came on. I appreciate that. You know, just the nonstop love and appreciation. And my mom would be proud of this. DK's mom would probably be proud because he looks like a sexual chocolate being right now. And Rob looks like a freaking mob boss ready to make a hit on people.
I wish. That means I would have money.
But at the end of the day, this is all about love and respect and caring. And this is what Match Memories was made for, to make you remember that love and affection you have for being a fan, the love and affection. That's something that a family member altered your life for. I mean, think about it. Think about the one person you have in your life that made you a wrestling fan to start with.
My mom.
And I guarantee you it was your family, a family member.
Mm-hmm.
Regardless, even if it was your cousins, uncles, even if it was an extended friend that's extended family, the family like Roddy is to me, or Melissa or something like that, their impact lies in it. There's a list of people I could go through. Tim and Joel have made a big impact me doing this stuff. John from Wrestling Unplugged, Metal Mike, who I just went on a show a few weeks ago. I mean, even Louis, whatever you want to call him now on Wrestle Talk, Dangor, was on the show, and up from Britain. And, Tad was on when we did a roundtable too. The community behind me, and it's so much grateful, and it makes every day a little bit easier. And the people behind in real life are so too.
Yeah.
So if we all had a beer on, I'd raise it up and say Solancha, and appreciate every day, every one for your life. And just never forget that line I say at the end of the show all the time: do a good deed, pay it forward. It's not just a line, it's reality, it's life. We have to do a good thing for everybody once a day, because at the end of the day, we go home by ourselves. Even dropping $1 to someone, could help them. Like, I get a tip sometimes for just putting air in somebody's tires, and that helps me put gas in my car if I don't have any cash, or it gives me coffee for the next day.
Yeah.
It's the small things,
Yep.
Yeah.
And well, DK, tell us where people can find you.
That
Find me
big
on-
Barry White sexual being down there.
I want to move away from the Barry White stuff. I'm gonna stick with the sexual chocolate. That's better.
Oh, that's fine too, but still,
That's better.
You know how many people ask me who's that Barry White of Fightful, and I said, yeah, that's DK, man, because nobody
right,
can
guys,
get
cool.
enough of love.
Hey, I got a lot to give. Well, follow me on Twitter at It's Wildboy.
All right, throwback.
Every Tuesday night at 8:00, we do Wicked Crazy Pinball Podcast. We have random guests on it all the time. I'm going to say this really does feel weird. I'm proud to announce that there will be a secondary channel being developed real soon for 2021 for people, anybody. I will be giving anybody the opportunity to be doing their own stuff daily. I get announced, and I'm proud to announce in 2021 at some point, Wildboy will be doing his own production on said channel. Rob will be able to, if he wants to pop in and out, also to do anything as he sees fit. The people that are regulars on the show have more ability to do things they want that they ever did. And this is to give people who don't have a voice, people who think they can't do this, but they're curious how to do it, the opportunity to, within the means and the limits of the YouTube bylaws.
Cool.
There will be a special email for this. That will be run not from me, but it'll be run, and hopefully these guys agree to it. It'll be controlled by Rob and DK on their own time.
Yeah. Cool.
And this way, like, Rob wants to do a draft with DK on DK show, or they want to pull me from the Wicked Crazy Pinfall show to go over to the secondary channel to do it. I'm not going to be Ollie Davis. No. Let's say Ray Callahan wants to go on, Drew Nicholas, Tim wants to do something on the YouTube, Ron Patel wants to do something. It gives anybody the authority to do so. It's to get your voice out there, just like this helped me. Tuesday coming up, I mean, We've got really, really interesting person coming on. John from Wrestling Plug is going to come back, and we're going to do the YouTube show and opening up to anybody who wants to come in. This is not a joke. This is not a show thing. You want to come on, message, DM me if Rob's hosting a show, DM them, etc. And you can pop in and say hi. This show is a wrestling show, a live show, and it's home. It's allowing you to come in and hang out with us. And you can find me like where it's scrolling, Throwback 978. Check out the podcast with Tim and Joel on Spotify. The special edition has Tim's band at the end of the show, and it has some thankings on it. So I implore you to listen to the podcast this week. It has me thanking a lot of people. Cool. This has been an emotional roller coaster today. This has been a roller coaster week. And to you, DK, I love you, man. I appreciate everything you've done for me.
Love you too, bro.
In the last few years. Rob, I love you, dude, for YouTube. And if Jesse's watching, Jesse Davin, Hannah, just allowing me in that chat and starting this journey that we are all on right now. So, you know, and also straight up, thank you, Fightful. At the end of the day, without that, I probably would, like I said to Sean in that show, I would probably be that kid stuck in the room in the dark and not wanting to come out. You know, my mom's proud of me, but I still grow every day. So,
yeah. Well, you could follow me at Rob Wilkins on Twitter. Otherwise, you could check out some of my writing on shootingthesportish.com. I'm doing some NHL previews, some Major League Baseball previews, covering wrestling. Also, my first feature, it's not much, it's not big, but it will be on Fightful on Saturday. I'm not sure what time it's gonna be online, but Sean told me yesterday it will be on there, so I'm excited for that.
Congrats, bro.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I'm pretty excited about that. And the other thing is, if I don't say something inappropriate, it's not really a good podcast. So I want people to know that if you have any questions, or if your girlfriend has any questions, I am an amateur gynecologist. So that is it.
For a minute there, I thought you were going to tout your OnlyFans and saying you're wearing pants.
No, they took that off the air.
Well, for one thing, I want to say congratulations, Rob. You've been a great friend, and you deserve everything you're doing.
Yes, you.
DK, the sun is everything. I'm very excited for 2021 for you, and me being a part of it. I hopefully, you know, like we talked about it a little bit one time, that it will be a great thing, a great outlet. This channel coming up, that will be released. There's no name for it yet. I'm going to talk to Rob and DK about it more in depth going towards 2021, because obviously I believe them controlling it is a lot more so I can focus on everything and producing in the background. So, which means if you're a guest on there, I'm sorry you have to deal with them, because if they're anything like me, they got a big heart, but they're very upfront and will tell you exactly what they expect.
All right. Well, we will see you later. So peace out. Have a great day. Great night, rather.
Check out Tim and Joel.